Hello, everyone. Today, I thought it was a good time to go into a completely different toy line from Transformers that is not at all entirely different depending on your point of view. We're going to be looking at Brave, or Yuusha. The Brave series is what came after Transformers. Takara let the anime kind of peter out, and then in 1990 introduced this, which is something of a mix between Transformers and the Super Robo genre, where you have these like giant robots doing these over the top massive things. Usually, the story plot revolves around sentient robots befriending kids, saving the universe, etc. This went on until 1998 with probably the most successful, strangely enough, considering like it was the end of the series, Gaigar, which then got an OVA series in 2000. So you've got a strong decade that this series went on for. And of course, it survives now in the form of model kits and more model kits and some high-end releases too. Don't get me wrong. But the toy line itself was essentially a stopgap when Transformers was just not performing well. And to me, it always felt like they were trying to capture a little bit of Gundam in there as well, because the anime aesthetic is much stronger in this series, in these toys, than it ever was in Transformers. That said, the connection between these two shows is actually really, really strong because, as a shortcut, there are a lot of characters in Brave that actually were taken directly from Transformers. Whether it was an anime character design that was just aping an original because that's just quicker, or if they're just flat out reusing a toy. Because just because a toy line's canceled is no reason not to repaint it to death and make more money. So we're going to be looking at all of those, all of the iterations of Transformers that appeared in Brave series. And it starts with X Kaiser, the very first one. So no surprise that the very first Brave series also pulled a bunch of Transformer designs for the sake of simplicity and filling out their roster. I will tell you right now, most of these were villains. All the new toys went into the good guys, and then it was usually the villains that ended up copying or borrowing a past Transformer design. As you see here, this is Armorgeist, who is very much just Snarl. It's just Dinobot Snarl. It's weird because like they didn't reuse these. As far as I know, the Geist didn't get toys, so yeah, they had ample opportunity. The Dinobots never got remolded at any point, so like this would have been pretty spot on. But no, they did not. This follows up with a Slag retooled into Horngeist. You'll notice here that the general design is the same, but they have been like heavily retooled to try and be at least somewhat original. But the idea is that with the borrowed design, it at least shortcuts all the engineering that would have gone into it, and actually looks like it can transform because, well, it can. It did before. Moving on from that, Pterageist, or Pterageist, depending on how you want to pronounce it, as Swoop, and it's actually a really cool redesign. It's redesigns like this that really make me kind of ask, like, can we get some Selects retools? Can some crazy customizer out there like fill in a gap here, like throw something together? This would have been really cool. These are some really cool designs. And then we have Thundergeist, which is a sludge retooling. They loved adding spikes to these guys, I'll say that. Not that spikes going out the side of a Brontosaurus makes sense, but hey, it looks cool in the design and it makes them look more evil, right? So, credit where credit's due. Again, never appeared as toys, it's strictly just borrowing the designs for the sake of taking a shortcut. So, we move on to Dagaarn, or Dagaarn. I'm not even sure how I'm pronouncing it because I never saw the show. Sue me. I've not, sue me. I've read up and looked at Brave toys and all that quite a bit. Outside of Gaigar, I never watched the shows. However, they did steal one mold for this toy line, and that's really only one you need to steal when you're stealing Deathsaurus. This is Red Geist with the Red Breaster. Red Breaster. That was an actual name that they used. So it's Deathsaurus and the Tiger Breast from his original gimmick. There's no Eagle Breast component, which is kind of weird because like the bulk of the toy is there, but they left out one particular piece, which I understand cost cutting, but at that point when you're doing such a big toy, why wouldn't you just like throw it in? Just give it a random paint, even if it never shows up in the show, just give it a random paint job and throw it in. Either way, if you ever wanted a red version of Deathsaurus, it does exist. It is out there. And if we ever get Deathsaurus as a toy, we have a Selects repaint just ready to go because it actually does look pretty cool. All right, Might Gain, we can move on to. So we have Goryu, who is obviously a complete repaint of Die Atlas. You'll notice a lot of these are just straight repaints. Now, later on, we're going to get into some like actual retooling where they tried to make a completely new character out of it. But for the most part, it is just straight up repainting Transformers and calling it a completely different toy line. So, in Might Gain, the design for Die Atlas was also used for, appropriate enough, Atlas Mark II and Atlas Epsilon, which are minor characters at best. I don't have visual examples of them. But yeah, you at very least have this kind of functionality. Even the Micromaster. The Micromaster, which was Speeder, was renamed Owashi and repainted as well. So even that got included in this bonus. Then I'm still asking where Eagle Breast went a year before. See. And let's see, who else do we have here? We have one more in Might Gain, and that's Hiryu, with Hayabusa being his Micromaster, which were originally Sonic Bomber and Sonic. Again, we're going with the black and red repaints, which, I can't really argue against. This was also used for another minor design, Mega Sonic 8823. So, again, rehash, cut corners, save money. It's a corporation after all. So yeah, Sonic Bomber exists in kind of a maroon and black color as well. Again, looking pretty cool. J. Decker is where things get a little bit more interesting, and they start putting a little bit more effort into what they're doing. So Shadow Maru, and I think this is one of the more famous Brave figures because it's just straight up 6-shot redone into a ninja. 6-shot, fictionally, has always had some effort on, some emphasis on ninja because they're trying to push this concept. They're trying to push this idea that, that he transforms into so many different things because he is this robot ninja that needs to transform. He needs to like shape change to disguise or fit certain situations, which is kind of the emphasis here for Shadow Maru. We have a brand new head, a new chest, new fins, new beast mode head, an entirely new set of accessories as well in order to fit his ninja motif. So a radical redesign, really just going as far out as they could. It also does mean that this mold exists 3 times over with different chest and head configurations for different characters should you want to use them. Again, I ask where my remolds are. We have a good modern 6-shot. I want a few of these, please. But no, it's a cool figure. It's probably one of the cooler figures. And like I said, they tried to put a lot of effort into redoing it. Kagero also exists. This is animation exclusive, I believe. And yeah, it is loosely based off of Shadow Maru. So it's loosely based on 6-shot, so it does count, even though it doesn't have nearly the range in the show that Shadow Maru does. But it checks a box, goes in this list. All right, we're going to move on to Goldran. And Goldran has one that's actually familiar to me because it's the only one of these I've actually owned, and that's Death Garrigun. Death Garrigun is a fascinating name. All right, so Death Garrigun is a Sky Gary repaint, just a straight up repaint this time with a bunch of new sticker detailing. And it also comes with a repaint of Shot Bomber, his Micromaster, now done as Missile Gear, which sounds like something before you came up with Metal Gear. You know, it's a weapon. You know, like yeah, it sounds like it's from that vein, I guess. So the launching trailers, like the launchers and the trailers are gone. Like the trailers can't launch anything anymore, but the trailers are still included. So the whole thing with Sky Gary's alt mode and gimmick is that you could stretch it out, and all of these little carriers could connect in, and he could transport them. So that was the running. That's kind of the thing for the toy. This can still do that. Now it doesn't have nearly the functionality, but it can still accomplish that. So it's a little bit interesting in that. It lived at Big Bad Toy Store for like less than $30 forever. Just buried at the very back of their listings. So for years, you had a chance to actually own one of these. I believe it was the Korean release, but it was the same toy. Exactly the same toy. So if you ever wanted to experience a Brave toy or a Japanese G1 toy, there was a dirt cheap option available for a long time. It's sold out by now, so don't go rushing to Big Bad just yet. But interesting that something like that actually managed to live a little bit longer than expected. So yeah, one more for the list. I believe I have a couple here that are also exclusive to the anime. I'm going to butcher the name, Revibaron. I have probably butchered the pronunciation on that. This is a weird one because it's taking the animation model of Sonic Bomber, but it's throwing in a few pieces of Deathsaurus and Diatlas as well, in this weird, super weird, like Chinese knockoff style thing. Like when you ever see those like super cheap animes they do in, where like super cheap like Chinese or Korean anime where they just have like all these different Transformer designs out of nowhere and they're always like cobbled together from little bits of everything. That's the kind of vibe. That's the kind of vibe, but on a far more official scale. Like, I need to design a new robot. All right, just let me copy your homework, but change a few things so it doesn't look the same. We're in that range. The one I really like the most, and if I want to repaint of anything, here it is. We have Sasori Gun, and this time I know I'm pronouncing that right because it's literally just Scorpion Gun. Oh, he looks cool. Oh, Scorponok looks so cool here. This is it's weird. So we've already reused Scorponok once, where we reused Mega Zarak, more specifically for Black Zarak, and now we're doing it again for Sasori Gun. Keep in mind, in America, there is actually an additional version of Scorponok that only exists in the Micromaster toy commercials. Strangely enough. So we've got a lot of different versions of the big Scorpion, and they're all interesting in their own right. This one I love the colors on. The silver, the black, the red, he looks absolutely sick. It's just interesting, because like we're in the mid-90s at this point on this list, and we're going back for essentially, probably at this point, almost a 10-year-old design. Which is really reaching. And it's interesting to me that they needed a gigantic design, a gigantic robot compared to the others. So they went with a toy that's naturally gigantic compared to most other Transformers from its line. They didn't have to do that. They could do a Scorpion, like they could do Scorponok as just a normal size robot. They could have done Cliff Jumper as a giant, Interesting to me that they would actually keep the scale in mind. I guess just in case they wanted to do a toy at some point. Still, really, really like this idea. All right, we're going to move on to another series, Dagaarn, and this one's got one that I think a lot of people know of, which is the Dag base, which is obviously a very heavy retool of Grandis. You got a ton of new parts going on here in order to give him as much of a distinct look as possible. Now, it's important to note that a lot of those straight repaints, those are from, like, Those are from the age of like the very late G1, where pretty much everything had something of a base mode, and a lot of it could combine together. This has had all of its combination elements gutted out. It's just a really giant robot whose guts open up to form a base. That's if you've never seen Grandis. Grandis is the Lost City bot. Grandis is just a gigantic, super thick, dummy thick robot who literally just opens his chest and vomits out this playset. And then you shove everything back in. He goes, "Oh God, I'm tired." Falls forward, and then he's an aircraft carrier. That's his transformation. Grandis is amusing. Grandis is amusing. So, yeah, a big toy like that, not a shock they retool it and get a little bit more money out of it. And I'm going to go with one more here from Dag1, which is Thunder Dag1. It's just, there's a lot of retooling here, but we very much see that it's Galaxy Shuttle. So again, we're into like super late G1 releases again. This one actually has a ton of additional retooling to allow something more akin to Brave's gimmicks of like extra elements of combination with smaller elements. There is a motorcycle robot that combines for the robot mode. So you get a little bit more of a different play pattern than you did from Galaxy Shuttle. So this is essentially the end of what I have for you. But there are just a couple little notes that we still have to hit. The first one being the fact that there is also a set of Micromaster bases repainted and re-released during J-Decker. These were the mini Colle bases, and I couldn't find visual representations of them. That's why you're looking at the gasoline base. Unfortunately, I tried. I tried, but these things are pretty obscure. The Micromasters were removed, and instead they had like small police figures that basically stayed at the station. And again, they still combined, they still converted, etc. So you still had that play function to them, but they wanted to remold something to bulk out the toy line. So there you go. Also, we're going to throw this in because it's technically cheating, it's technically not. So I'm going to go all the way back to X-Kaiser, all the way back to the first one, and we're going to talk Green Raker and Blue Raker. And why do we bring these two up? Because if you don't know Brave, you've never seen these two. All right? This is just lost on you. If you know Brave, you probably know what this is. So these two were originally designed for Transformers. Designed, engineered, ready to go, and then Transformers gets axed, and they have to move on. These two were supposed to be Transformers, but we move on to a new toy line, so they join the first Brave series instead. So they get a little bit more of a notoriety. They are in here by proxy, just for the fact that they were almost Transformers, but technically they're not. It's still an interesting little additional point to bring up. So that is going to be my list of Brave introducing or reintroducing a lot of people to Transformer designs, whether it is just coming up with an easy, ready-to-go character model, or whether we need to bulk out the toy line. Either way, I hope you gained something from this. I hope you learned a little bit more about the weird history of Transformers in Japan, because, yeah, the G1 era has a lot of weirdness to it like this. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Until then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.